Hello, friends, and welcome to Star Tears. Today, we honor the lives of four extraordinary individuals who passed away on September 27, 2025. Each of them left a unique mark on the world, from the roar of racing engines and the thrill of sports arenas to the quiet brilliance of literature, art, and culture. Every life has a story, and every story leaves an impact. Today, we remember those who shaped their fields, inspired generations, and left legacies that will endure long after they are gone. In this episode, we will explore the journeys, challenges, and achievements of these six remarkable people. Life is fleeting, but stories remain. Let's begin with the first of these unforgettable lives, Vincenzo Enzo Osella. In the quiet town of Volpiano near Turin, a boy named Vincenzo Osella was born in 1939, destined to leave an indelible mark on the world of motorsport. From his earliest days, Enzo was fascinated by engines, mechanics, and speed. This passion, nurtured in his father's garage, would grow into a lifelong journey that blended ingenuity, ambition, and Italian racing heritage. Enzo grew up surrounded by mechanics, learning precision and craftsmanship. Helped in the family garage, repairing vehicles, understanding engines. Teenage years included early exposure to local racing events and rallies. Developed competitive spirit and technical knowledge simultaneously. Even as a boy, Enzo showed a rare combination of curiosity and skill, laying the foundation for a life that would change Italian motorsport forever. Began co-driving in rallies, then driving himself. First car, borrowed Fiat 600 entering local competitions. Purchased and modified a Lotus 11 with Osca engine, Alfa Romeo differential. Competed successfully in hill climb races, earning reputation for precision and daring. Every curve and every climb honed his instincts, teaching him that success in motorsport required both technical mastery and fearless courage. Joined Carlo Abarth in 1963 as test driver and mechanic. Learned engineering of chassis and engine development. Developed a keen understanding of car performance and reliability. Built connections that would support his later entrepreneurial ventures. Under Abarth's mentorship, Enzo learned that speed was as much about engineering brilliance as it was about bravery, a lesson he would carry throughout his career. Opened Abarth dealership in Turin in 1965. Began producing own hill climb cars, then Formula 2 entries. Osella cars became known for engineering excellence, lightweight chassis, and competitive performance. Developed reputation as a meticulous team owner and innovative engineer. From a small garage to a full racing team, Osella showed that vision combined with discipline could produce results that even giants of the sport respected. Entered Formula 1 in late 1970s, personally managing logistics and engineering. Drivers included Piercarlo Ghinzani, Olivier Grouillard, and other talents. Faced challenges competing against Ferrari, McLaren, and Williams. Achieved points and recognition despite limited budgets. Enzo Osella's F1 journey was a testament to determination. A small Italian team competing against the Titans, proving that passion and intelligence could carve a place on the world stage. Osella cars dominated European hill climb competitions. Innovations in aerodynamics, suspension, and lightweight engineering. Mentored young drivers and engineers, influencing Italian racing culture. Osella was not just a team owner. He was a mentor and innovator, leaving a lasting imprint on motorsport beyond F1. Married, family-oriented, humble despite international recognition. Known for hands-on management and deep commitment to his team. Respected for integrity, attention to detail, and generosity in mentoring young talents. Behind the roar of engines was a man devoted to family, craftsmanship, and the art of racing. A man whose character matched the precision of his cars. Continued involvement in motorsport into his 80s. Passed away on September 27, 2025. Tributes poured in from former drivers, engineers, and racing fans worldwide. Enzo Osella may have left the track, but his legacy continues in every car, every race, and every driver inspired by his vision. From a garage in Volpiano to the pinnacle of motorsport, Vincenzo, Enzo, Osella showed the world what passion, ingenuity, and perseverance could achieve. His life reminds us that dedication and vision can transform dreams into history. Today, we remember not only a brilliant engineer and team owner, but a legend whose spirit will forever race on. Jean-Michel Ferrand. On September 27, 2025, France lost one of its long-standing public figures, Jean-Michel Ferrand, a man known for his distinctive style, outspoken opinions, and deep roots in the Vaucluse. Ferrand's political journey spanned more than 2 decades in the National Assembly. Today, we remember a life spent in service, controversy, loyalty, and the peculiar mixture of charm and provocation that marked his public persona. Born August 31, 1942, in Gardanne, Bouches-du-Rhône, France. Professionally, he was a professor of letters, literature teacher, before and alongside political life. He entered politics affiliated with Rassemblement pour la République, RPR, which later became Union for a Popular Movement, UMP. He was elected to the National Assembly for Vaucluse's 3rd constituency in June 1988 and held the seat until June 2012. His 24 years in the Assembly covered multiple legislative periods. RPR, then UMP, he was known for outspoken positions and sometimes polarizing statements. Ferrand was well known for his gaudy appearance and what French sources describe as meridional loquacity, a very southern French expressiveness and verbosity. He stood out in part because of this vivid presence. He belonged to the popular right wing within his party. He often took strong, sometimes controversial positions, including support for reinstating the death penalty for terrorism. In 2012, Ferrand was defeated in the parliamentary elections. He lost his seat to Marion Maréchal Le Pen. Earlier, his political base in Vaucluse was strong. He also served in other local and departmental roles, Council General, municipal councillor during his political career. During his last legislative term, 2007-2012, Ferrand engaged in a variety of parliamentary questions and interventions. Issues such as fraud in pensions, public safety, drug trafficking, viticulture rights, and relations between France and Turkey in terms of investment. He filed or co-sponsored bills, spoke in committees, and was active in representing local concerns in Vaucluse, especially issues of rural life, agriculture, local infrastructure. After his defeat, though he no longer held a national office, Ferrand remained influential locally. Even without official roles, he was seen as a respected elder in the local party structures in Vaucluse. In local media, for example, Le Dauphiné Libéré, he was described as someone still regularly asked for advice, frequently engaging in local political debates, and maintaining a permanent local presence. Death, September 27, 2025, he had been hospitalized after an accident. He died at age 83. Public reaction. French outlets reported his passing, emphasizing his long service, his distinct style, and local commitment. Many remembered his voice in Vaucluse, his combative yet familiar presence. Ferrand's legacy is mixed but meaningful. To his supporters, he was a fierce advocate for his region, someone who never forgot his roots, someone who helped people locally and did not hide behind elite status. To critics, some of his positions were controversial. His rhetoric, his support for strong law enforcement measures, and his style sometimes divisive. But even among critics, there's recognition. Long service, dedication, local presence are not easy to sustain. Politicians like Ferrand represent a certain kind of French local national, politician deeply enmeshed in local life, able to survive political tides, loyal to a political identity, outspoken in what he believed. Jean-Michel Ferrand's story is a reminder that political life is not always about grand gestures or global fame. It's often about persistence, distinctive voice, and the messy, difficult work of representing people over decades. He knew both victories and defeats, always stayed visible, always stayed vocal. As we remember him, we might ask, what does it mean to serve locally? to be a representative who lives where his constituents live. His style may not have appealed to everyone, but his devotion to Vaucluse, his consistency, and willingness to be outspoken are part of what made him who he was. Russell Marion Nelson Sr. On September 27, 2025, the world lost a man who healed hearts both physically and spiritually. Russell Marion Nelson Sr., the 17th President of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, passed away at the age of 101, a world-renowned heart surgeon and a global faith leader. Nelson's century of life bridged science and religion, medicine and ministry, intellect and inspiration. Today, we journey through his extraordinary story, a story of a boy from Salt Lake City who would grow up to touch millions of lives across every continent. Born September 9, 1924 in Salt Lake City, Utah. His parents, Marion C. and Edna Nelson, were not fully active in church life at the time, but young Russell developed an early sense of curiosity, discipline, and faith. A bright student, he excelled academically and musically, playing the piano and later singing in choirs. As a teenager, he lived through the Great Depression and World War II, experiences that shaped his sense of resilience and duty. From the very beginning, Nelson showed a quiet brilliance, a mind that loved learning, a heart that loved people, and a spirit that sought truth. Nelson graduated from high school at age 16, entering the University of Utah during wartime. He earned his bachelor's degree in 1945 and his MD in 1947. At just 22 years old, he interned at the University of Minnesota, where he specialized in cardiothoracic surgery. In 1951, he earned a PhD in surgery for his pioneering work. His training coincided with the earliest attempts at open-heart surgery, a field still experimental and dangerous. It was in the operating theater that Nelson found his calling, not just to heal, but to innovate, to take the impossible and make it possible. Nelson was part of the surgical team that developed one of the first heart-lung bypass machines, making open-heart surgery feasible. In 1951, he helped perform Utah's first successful open-heart operation. He later led the team that performed the first open-heart surgery in Utah using cardiopulmonary bypass. Over his career, he authored dozens of medical papers, trained hundreds of surgeons, and was recognized worldwide as a pioneer. He also served in the U.S. Army Medical Corps during the Korean War, contributing his expertise. Nelson was more than a surgeon. He was an architect of possibility, giving thousands of patients not just more time, but more life. Despite the demands of medicine, Nelson was deeply devoted to his family and faith. He married Dancel White in 1945, with whom he had 10 children. He served in church callings, choir director, bishop, stake president, even while maintaining a global surgical career. Colleagues often marveled at how he balanced 18-hour surgical days with genuine attention to his family and congregation. For Nelson, healing hearts was never just a medical pursuit. It was a spiritual calling. In April 1984, Russell M. Nelson was called as a member of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles. At age 59, he set aside a prestigious medical career to serve full-time in the church. As an apostle, he traveled widely, meeting with leaders in Africa, Asia, Latin America, and Eastern Europe. He bore witness of Jesus Christ with the same clarity and precision he once brought to surgery. To leave a world-class medical career at its height was no sacrifice for Nelson. For him, it was a higher summons, to become a physician of the soul. On January 14, 2018, at age 93, Nelson was set apart as the 17th President of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, succeeding Thomas S. Monson. He immediately embarked on reforms and modernization, emphasized using the full name of the church, moving away from the nickname Mormon, announced sweeping changes in church programs, including youth initiatives and home-centered gospel study, oversaw an unprecedented global temple expansion, announcing nearly 150 new temples during his presidency. He traveled worldwide, addressing members in more than 30 countries during his first 2 years alone. At an age when most men rest, Nelson rose, becoming a tireless shepherd to millions. Nelson's messages centered on personal revelation, faith in Jesus Christ, and joy in covenant living. He encouraged members to hear him, focusing on direct spiritual connection with God. His medical background influenced his style, logical, disciplined yet deeply compassionate. Members often described him as both gentle grandfather and resolute prophet. He spoke like a surgeon, precise, clear, exacting. But he also spoke like a prophet, with hope, vision, and love. In 2005, after 60 years of marriage, his wife Dancel passed away suddenly. In 2006, he married Wendy Watson, a Canadian professor and counselor who became a vital support in his later ministry. Nelson also endured the loss of 2 daughters to cancer. Through grief, he taught millions how faith sustains the soul through life's deepest wounds. He knew sorrow. He knew loss, and that gave his words on eternal families a power that could not be feigned. Even into his 90s and 100s, Nelson remained active, addressing members worldwide, announcing temples and encouraging faith. On September 27, 2025, Russell M. Nelson passed away peacefully in Salt Lake City, just weeks after his 101st birthday. His death was met with an outpouring of tributes from church members. Georg Stefan Troller. There are lives that reflect the history of an era, lives shaped by exile, by war, by survival, and transformed into voices of memory, culture, and truth. Georg Stefan Troller lived such a life. Born in Vienna in 1921, he escaped the Nazis, fought as an American soldier, and became one of Europe's most original journalists and documentarians. His interviews captured the essence of the 20th century, speaking with the famous and the forgotten, the powerful and the powerless. Tonight, we journey through a century in one man's life, a story of exile and belonging, of memory and creativity, of words and images that shaped the way we see history. Georg Stefan Troller was born December 10, 1921, in Vienna into a Jewish family. His father ran a successful fur business. His mother cared for the household. He grew up during the First Austrian Republic, a time of instability but also artistic flourishing. Vienna was still a cultural capital. As a teenager, he felt both the richness of Vienna's Jewish life and the rising hostility of anti-Semitism. The boy who would one day interview the world's most celebrated figures was himself, just a child in a city filled with contradictions. Vienna, the capital of Freud, Mahler, and Schnitzler, but also a place where anti-Semitism simmered dangerously under the surface. In March 1938, Hitler annexed Austria, the Anschluss. For Vienna's Jews, life changed overnight. Violence, arrests, humiliation became daily reality. At age 16, Troller fled Austria. His parents, tragically, did not survive the Holocaust. He made his way to France, then eventually obtained passage to the United States in 1941. Exile at 16, alone in the world. The trauma of losing family, homeland, childhood, these scars never faded. They became the silent undercurrent of everything. Troller would later write and film. In the U.S., Troller learned English and built a new life. Drafted into the U.S. Army, he served as a soldier in Europe during World War II. He participated in the liberation of parts of Germany, returning as a liberator to the continent he had fled as a refugee. The war deepened his awareness of injustice, memory, and the need to document human experience. The young refugee had become an American soldier, but inside he was still the Viennese boy marked by exile. This dual identity, victim and survivor, exile and witness, would shape his journalism forever. After the war, Troller returned to Europe, but not to Vienna. Instead, he settled in Paris, the city that became his lifelong home. He studied literature, psychology, and art history at the Sorbonne. Gradually, he entered journalism, writing for radio and newspapers. His early interviews already showed his unique style, empathetic, probing, always focused on the individual's inner life rather than just facts. Paris gave him a new identity, no longer just an exile, but a chronicler, a man with a pen and later a camera, determined to capture the truth of others' lives. In the 1960s, Troller began working for West German television, WDR-ZDF. He hosted the iconic program Pariser Journal, a cultural magazine that ran for nearly 2 decades. Through it, German audiences discovered French culture, politics, literature, and art. Troller became known for his sharpie, yet human interviews with major figures, from Jean-Paul Sartre and Simone de Beauvoir to Salvador Dalí and François Sagan. His interviews were never confrontational but always revealing. He asked personal, unexpected questions that uncovered emotional truths. Troller gave post-war Germans a window into France and into themselves. His gentle accent, Viennese charm, and probing curiosity became trademarks of a new European journalism. Beyond television, Troller produced powerful documentary films exploring exile, identity, and cultural memory. His works often returned to the theme of the Holocaust and the experience of Jews in Europe. He also published books, including his Selbstportrait, autobiographical portraits, essays, and reflections. His style mixed journalism with literature, poetic, ironic, deeply personal. He never separated journalism from literature. For Troller, every life was a story, every interview a small novel. He believed that to understand people, you had to listen not just to what they said, but to what they couldn't say. Troller remained marked by exile. Though he visited Vienna, he never returned to live there. His Austrian identity was fractured. He was Viennese, but also American, also Parisian, also Jewish. This gave his work universal depth. He spoke from the margins, never fully belonging, always observing. Exile had become his homeland, and perhaps that is why his interviews carried such compassion. He knew what it meant to lose everything. Troller received numerous awards: the Grimme Prize, the German Federal Cross of Merit, Austrian distinctions, and literary prizes. Even into his 90s, he continued giving interviews, reflecting on the 20th century and the fragility of democracy. He often warned against forgetting history, especially the Holocaust. The century had shaped him, and in turn, he had given the century a voice. Georg Stefan Troller passed away on December 24, 2023, in Paris at the age of 102. Obituaries in Germany, Austria, and France hailed him as a witness of the century, a bridge between cultures, and one of the great interviewers of modern times. A life that began in exile ended in honor. The boy who fled Vienna became one of Europe's most important chroniclers, proof that even the deepest wounds can produce lasting voices of truth. Georg Stefan Troller's life was a testament to resilience. He showed us that survival is not enough, that we must transform pain into creation, exile into expression, memory into story. For over a century, he held up a mirror to the world, and through his words, his films, his questions, he taught us that every human being has a story worth telling. This was his legacy, not just to remember history, but to remind us that behind history are human lives. Take care of yourself and your loved ones. Thank you for joining us today. Subscribe to our channel. Many more stories await, and the journey of remembrance continues.